So we are here now to interview the co-founders of Inclusive Gems Consultancy, Florence and Aaron, who provide inclusive edu-mentoring support to learners, including gifted ones. In this segment, we have a case study for you both to unpack. Let's listen to a sharing from Jonathan.
Hello, my name is Jonathan, and I am in 6th grade, and I'm 11 years old. A few things that help me to learn is either having one partner or just working solo. I need a specific partner that I don't necessarily work together. It just kind of someone that's there to ask questions oh, did you get this answer? Or something along those lines. I don't really like groups because when you get stuck with a group, you're sort of the only one that's working. And you have to be the one to make sure everyone is in line, and I end up being in charge. I think personally, I prefer getting a choice in what I'm going to do, and I like to go at my own pace. And last year, about halfway through the year, my teacher let me go through the math book on my own, and I think it was much better for me because I got to do it at my own pace, and I got to accelerate what I was doing. I had 2 or 3 other people that were also doing the same thing as me, and it was also really helpful. I finished the book about 2 months before everyone else, and then the teacher had extension work after I was finished with the book, and I ended up between 1 and 2 years ahead of my peers. I also really enjoy creative projects. Some projects that I get to have my own input on. For an example, last year I made a video about some chess pieces waging war against an evil microwave, and then they have to recruit a freezer along the way. I really enjoyed that story, and I think that projects like that are really fun and enjoyable.
Based on Jonathan's sharing, and from the perspective as a mentor, what are your thoughts about his preference of working alone or with a partner?
It's quite common in people that are generally more intelligent, is what I've observed. One of the main contributing factors to that, I believe, is due to difficulty of communication between gifted learners and non-gifted learners because of that intelligence difference. So, assuming if Jonathan is someone who is gifted, he might find it difficult to communicate with his peers normally. He might find it difficult to get them to do things the way he wants them to. That might lead to him developing this habit or preference of working alone or in smaller groups of people that he thinks will be easier to talk to, be easier to communicate with, and would understand him better.
I actually think that the sensitivities of these gifted learners, they're very aware of what others think, what others feel, and it kind of overwhelms them when they work in groups because there's so much to process, so much to take in. And on top of that, some of them could try to be people please, or to account for everything that's going on top of the work. So I think that could also contribute to their preference.
I noticed that Jonathan made a comment about the responsibilities of working with others, that it seems he often takes on a lot of the responsibility for the group task.
Yeah, so based on Jonathan's sharing, it does make sense that people who are more intelligent are usually taking on more of a leadership position because due to their expertise in macro and micromanagement, they can see more than the normal person in terms of the tasks that are available, the problems that we'll be facing, the solutions that we could potentially find, and the priority of those solutions. So how to order which solution goes first, which one goes second. For example, if he's working on a school project such as a computer science project like he has mentioned, if he's in a group rather than alone, he will have to manage who does which part of the code, who works on the animations, who works on the actual code itself, who works on the different parts of the project. And if someone who is not as well versed in all these different fields might not be able to manage the task management as well as someone who is more intelligent, however, it doesn't mean they are obligated to lead or obligated to get other people to do their part. It's just that because they can see that they can see a better path or better solution to the problems they are facing. Usually the more intelligent ones will voice that, as compared to the more social norms, closer to the average intelligence. A lot of the times they'll just sit around and wait for tasks to be given. However, I do believe that anyone can be trained to be someone that can lead, that can see the different possibilities in a project, different issues, different solutions. And this is a process which we are trying to teach gifted, non-gifted, 2E, whatever between those categories. We believe that every individual has the capability to lead in different fields. So for example, Jonathan might be able to lead in computer science or his story writing as compared to maybe one of his peers that are not as well versed in computer science and story writing, but is better at sports, for example, like managing sports events, managing logistics. So different people will have different strengths and in terms of leadership, and that should be brought out rather than Jonathan, because he's good at just one thing or this specific few things that we have looked at, for example, English, math, science. If he's good at leading in these three subjects, does not mean he's good at leading in all aspects of society. So we should advocate to bring out the potential, is what we call, bring out the potential of more learners in general to be able to take on more of a leadership position.
I also want to ask about like how, we had scientists and those who discovered, like Einstein discovered theories, Newton discovered theories. What are your thoughts about them discovering theories versus, sort of like a collective manner?
Just take those two examples, these scientific breakthroughs or mathematical breakthroughs. Yes, there are certain inspirations or people that are guiding them along the way, but they're generally one person's intellectual effort that grouped all those data that I have gathered from different people together to formalize a formula and to prove it. However, I believe that in our current society, most of the subjects or fields are too complicated for a breakthrough to happen from an individual. So for example, maths has gotten to a point where quantum physics or quantum engineering is a field that needs to be explored. And that is a very difficult part to break through because you need to get chemical engineers, you need to get physical engineers, mechanical engineers, and different people from different fields to give their knowledge, to give their understanding and how they view the world, their experiences on their specialties, to be able to gather this collective effort. Let's take an example. For example, nuclear fission, or what we have now as nuclear power plants, are more or less based on Oppenheimer's exploration of the world and his understanding of the world. But if we want to advance in terms of nuclear energy further into how the sun produces energy, it'll be really hard to deal with that or achieve that with just one formula. You have to make a machine for it, different prototypes of a machine. You need to deal with different safety issues, different potential flaws, potential failure points, and all of this has to come from people in different expertise. And that's why we are advocating for people to take leadership positions in different aspects or find what aspects they can lead best and give them that confidence to really bring out that potential. So we can get people that are in different fields, that are confident in their leadership position, leadership abilities, confident in their own abilities, intellectual abilities and is able to lead the people around them with confidence. Because after all, if you're charging into a battle as a leader and you're scared, the people behind you are going to be scared. But if you are confident in your ability to win, the people around you are less likely to back down as well. So we are looking at this type of avocation rather than just pushing the gifted to great heights and forgetting everyone else because they are not born with the ability.
So it sounds like your suggestions for educators of gifted learners would be that they seek to foster collaboration and leadership among their students.
What he shared seems like a collective intelligence, and I think that would just come from a united front to sort of like together we can achieve more. However, I do want to point out that in order to work together, we definitely need to understand each other's needs. So not just from gifted aspect, but gifted having to understand other learners, the various diverse learners, and likewise with everyone else to try to understand the gifted learners. Yeah. So I think that, we could look more into how different are gifted learners compared to their neurotypical counterparts.
I was going to ask, based on your experiences with gifted learners, what are your thoughts about how processing speed comes into play here? Is that something we need to keep in mind as well with our gifted learners?
Based on my experiences and what I see about myself, the people I have worked with, regardless of them being my peers or my clients or parents, I believe that processing speed it's a very dynamic concept. It's interchangeable under different environments. So, for example, if I am placed in a life or death situation, the processing speed will be artificially boosted greatly as compared to if I am reading a book that is boring. My processing speed might be slower as compared to, if I am falling out of a burning building. So I believe that in terms of gifted learners and neurotypical learners are more adaptive in terms of processing speed. They have an easier time increasing their processing speed and decreasing their processing speed as compared to gifted learners. However, that does not mean that gifted learners cannot process information fast. From my observations, gifted learners, they can do some tasks extremely fast, faster than their peers, and some tasks extremely slower than their peers. As compared to the peers, of course, because they are so adaptive in terms of processing speed. Let's say you tell them, do math questions now, allocate 15 minutes for you to do these 5 questions. They're going to be able to adjust their processing speed accordingly with their consciousness, and as compared to a gifted learner, which might need to understand, why do I need to do these 5 questions? What's the benefit I'm getting out of these 5 questions? And once they do, or once they have the incentive, the drive to perform that task, their processing speed will be brought up as compared to the normal learner, which if you give them a task, they have an easier time to just perform it. So that's what I've observed about processing speed. However, generally, if you're looking at an average, the gifted learners, the more intelligent someone is, it seems that their perceived processing speed is lower because they have a harder time to be adaptive to the environment around them in terms of how fast they can process a range of information.
So in this episode, we've heard from Jonathan, his experiences as a young student, describe his academic journey and also his affective experiences within that. And then Aaron and Florence have helped us unpack that in terms of the implications for learning and also for the future careers of our young gifted students. And that is important because we want to prepare our students to be effective in the workforce and effective in the world, to have long-term life learning and life paths